The Sun reported that U.S. intelligence estimates total Russian military casualties in Ukraine as 188,000 as of January 20, suggesting a possible 47,000 Russians have lost their lives in action in less than a year of fighting. The historical ratio of wounded to killed in war is 3-1, suggesting that Russian casualties in Ukraine thus far are close to the total U.S. deaths in the Vietnam War. The Ukrainian defense of Bakhmut is likely a strategically sound effort despite its costs for Ukraine. While the costs associated with Ukraine's continued defense of Bakhmut are significant and likely include opportunity costs related to potential Ukrainian counteroffensive operations elsewhere, Ukraine would also have paid a significant price for allowing Russian troops to take Bakhmut easily. Bakhmut itself is not operationally or strategically significant, but had Russian troops taken it relatively rapidly and cheaply, they could have hoped to expand operations in ways that could have forced Ukraine to construct hasty defensive positions in less favorable terrain. One must also not dismiss the seemingly political calculus of committing to the defense of Bakhmut lightly. Russian forces occupy more than 100,000 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory, including multiple Ukrainian cities, and are inflicting atrocities on Ukrainian civilians in occupied areas. Ukrainian forces have previously employed a similar gradual attrition model to compel Russian operations in certain areas to culminate after months of suffering high personnel and equipment losses in pursuit of marginal tactical gains. Russian troops spent months attempting to grind through effective Ukrainian defenses in Severodonetsk and Lysychansk in the early summer of 2022 and captured Lysychansk only after a controlled Ukrainian withdrawal from the area. The capture of Lysychansk and the Luhansk Oblast administrative border, however, quickly proved to be operationally insignificant for Russian forces, and the ultimate result of the Ukrainian defense of the area was the forced culmination of the Russian offensive in Luhansk Oblast, leading to the overall stagnation of Russian offensive operations in Donbass in the summer and fall of 2022. Ukrainian defense of Bakhmut will likely contribute to a similar result. Russian forces have been funneling manpower and equipment into the area since May 2022 and have yet to achieve any operationally significant advances that seriously threaten the Ukrainian defense of the area. Prominent Russian milbloggers claimed that Russian President Vladimir Putin replaced Russian commander of the airborne forces, Colonel General Mikhail Teplinsky, with first deputy head of the Russian General Staff Academy, Lieutenant General Oleg Makarevich. Milblogger discourse surrounding the reported replacement of Colonel General Mikhail Teplinsky with Lieutenant General Oleg Makarevich as commander of the Russian Airborne Forces, VDV, has further emphasized the fracture between two main groups within the Russian Ministry of Defense, the pro-Gerasimov camp, comprised of those who represent the conventional Ministry of Defense establishment, and milblogger favorites who are less aligned with the MOD institution. A prominent milblogger announced Teplinsky's replacement on January 20, triggering a wave of discontent among other milbloggers who voiced their confusion and concern over the situation. Several milbloggers questioned why the Russian Ministry of Defense would replace a well-respected career VDV commander with an academic with no combat experience. Wagner Group financier Yevgeny Prigozhin has launched a series of information operations aimed at portraying himself as a sacrificial hero of Russia in a crusade against petty and corrupt Russian authorities. Prigozhin's personal press service on January 21 amplified a letter from the family of a deceased Wagner PMC soldier that contrasted indifferent local officials, who did not help with the funeral of their son, with Prigozhin, who listens to their appeals. Prigozhin is simultaneously building his domestic power base and reputation as a significant international actor in an effort that is both fueled by and further fuels his information operations against the Russian government. Wagner-affiliated news outlet Ryazan published staged footage of Wagner forces placing the bodies of supposed Ukrainian soldiers into coffins to send back to Ukraine, And Prigozhin claimed that he advocated sending 20 truckloads of bodies to Ukraine in a likely attempt to humanize Wagner Group and portray Wagner fighters as honorable while portraying Wagner Group as willing and able to act in place of the Russian state to return war dead to the opposing side. Head of the Chechen Republic Ramzan Kadyrov continues to frame Chechen fighters' involvement in the war in Ukraine on distinctly religious grounds, thereby building out his reputation and the reputation of his power base. Kadyrov responded to the recent list of guidelines for grooming standards in the Russian army and noted that a majority of Chechen fighters wear beards in accordance with the Sunna, and additionally claimed that his Chechen fighters have been responsible for major gains in Mariupol, Severodonetsk, and Lysychansk. Kadyrov questioned the Russian Ministry of Defense, MOD's justifications for these guidelines and said they would demoralize fighters who are waging a holy war. Kadyrov additionally amplified a sermon given by Chechen theologian Magomed Kitanev on January 20 that claimed that the special military operation in Ukraine is aimed at eradicating Ukrainian Satanism. Kadyrov has repeatedly justified Chechen fighters' involvement in the war on distinctly religious grounds, thus presenting himself as the protector of Muslim fighters and bridging the gap between Chechen forces and Russian President Vladimir Putin's framing of the war on religious and moral grounds. If you want to stay ahead with news, updates, and exclusive military footage from Ukraine, make sure to support us on our Patreon page with the link below. Thank you very much for your support.